Sean Nazario, Spring Hill. To the three commissioners that support a no body camera policy, I ask you a question. Have you ever been arrested, publicly humiliated for a crime you didn't commit solely based on your skin color and fabricated evidence? That happened to the equivalent of my brother back in the summer of '96. I actually sent proof of that event to a couple of commissioners. Man, I love newspaper. Their ink never fades. I would be happy to hear what evidence they had outside of being a suspicious-looking Latino in the same parking lot 5 hours before the shooting occurred. I understand back then recording devices were not readily available, but no excuses today for families like Adriana Tarsicki and Michael O'Banner that must live with unanswered questions on suspect law enforcement interactions.
So that's Sean Nazario, and he is an outspoken advocate for body cameras after a friend of his, a very close friend of his, was falsely accused back in 1996 by a previous sheriff and their sheriff's department. Now, back then, like he said, there were no body cameras available for agencies, not readily available with all agencies. But what he's saying is, right now, we have that technology available, and why doesn't the current sheriff want to implement them? He goes on to talk about the Tarsinski case. That's Ariana Tarsinski, which actually I am wearing that shirt right now. And this is something that he was wearing there during the BOCC meeting today in support of a case involving the murder of Ariana Tarsinski, who is still unsolved to this day. But many believe, including the family, that's Judy and Eddie, believe that this case was botched by Detective Chris Kraft because nothing has come of the case. The guy who is accused of murdering their daughter was there. He was taken into custody. He had a bloody shirt on. He admitted to doing it. He admitted to killing Ariana Tarsinski, yet he was let go for reasons unknown.
I'll be the first to say that I've had more positive interaction with law enforcement over the course of my life. However, that does not negate the fact that when law enforcement make mistakes or commit misconduct, generally someone's life is destroyed or lost.
So isn't that right? There's no way to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, unless you have physical evidence, that you've been falsely accused. Now, we're not saying, of course, that law enforcement in general or as a practice will falsely accuse people. There is a very fringe number of deputies or law enforcement officers who do that to people, but it does happen. But when it happens, that person's life is destroyed. And in the case of law enforcement shooting or being involved in deputy involved or law enforcement involved shootings, there's no way to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that something may have been wrong with that case unless there are body cameras involved.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Campbell, not to be disrespectful, but you don't know what you're talking about. We have children walking to schools without sidewalks and shoulders, but we have Chinese spy cameras surveilling them.
The Chinese spy cameras. Now, that's something that Steve Champion has also been an opponent of since Sheriff Al Nienhuis implemented those a few years ago to basically put spy cameras, the flock camera system, on Hernando County roadways to follow and spy and collect data on anyone he wants to within the county. And he doesn't have to divulge who he's following. He doesn't have to say what it's for. As a matter of fact, when he first implemented this program, he sent a letter to all county commissioners saying, you cannot divulge any information about these flock cameras under a criminal penalty. Basically, he said they could be arrested for a misdemeanor if they had divulged any information of why he was implementing that program.
Champion, you say the state senator votes correctly? Fair enough. But someone needs to remind him the elected position of sheriff has the least amount of oversight and is the epitome of the good old boy system.
The second most powerful person in Hernando County is Senator Blaise Ingoglia, and he has been known to be the appointee of almost all politicians in the county. Now, we could get into that another time. That's a whole other issue. But he also has the power to suggest things to the governor, like what Steve Champion has suggested, which is mandatory body cameras on all law enforcement officers in the state. And so the question is, why hasn't he been a voice behind that?
I've never been against body-worn cameras. I've said that publicly. One of the things that we have to understand is that The sheriff is an elected official. He's an elected constitutional, and it's his responsibility to either approve or deny those. His argument generally, and I don't want to speak for him, is that he would rather, spend the money right now putting more deputies on the road and then implement them. I mean, I don't have an opinion on it one way or the other.
Yeah, I just want to be clear, too. I think every one of us up here had said we would support the body-worn cameras if the sheriff brought them forth and put it in his budget.
So as it comes to defund the police, and I'll be very clear, I have zero issue with body cameras. Zero.
These three commissioners, that's Brian Hawkins, John Alaco, and Jerry Campbell, have always towed the line for Sheriff Nienhuis, especially during budget season, which is coming up. They have rubber-stamped every single budget, regardless of the increases that he requests. It could be anywhere from 8 to 12% each year, and they always pass it through. And because it's always been a 3-4 to 1 or 3 to 2 vote, there's been no oversight. There's been no accountability, no review into what the sheriff uses the money for. And just so you know, a constitutional officer can say he's going to use it for one thing and then totally use it for another as soon as the budget is approved.
I was on a podcast and they were asking me questions on why am I so passionate about body cameras. It's not because I think our deputies are doing a bad job, or I think the vast majority of them, like I said, 99.9% are doing a great job with it.
That podcast was Get Real with Tom Lemons.
And I'm going to explain the reason why I'm for one and not the other, right? Because a lot of people say, well, you're not for these cameras on the road, but you want the cameras on the cops, right? Number one, we need to protect our deputies, right? They get accused of everything under the sun. They have arrests most of the time, 99.9% of the time. It's justified. The other side of it is this is where the conservative side comes in. We save money with this, big time. But here's the flip side of it. I'm an innocent person. I get pulled over with no just cause, and you harass me, then immediately the prosecution says, Mr. Champion, case dismissed. You don't have to spend 40 grand or 50 grand to defend yourself. And to me, that's unacceptable.
That is unacceptable. And a lot of people, including myself, who have gone through going through lawfare, going through a witch hunt in Hernando County, and you can see what that's all about through the history of Real News Real Fast on my documentary, Behind the Gate by Tom Lemons. You looked it up on YouTube, and you can find. I also put a link in the description down below. But yes, who's going to come to your defense? You just have to spend thousands of dollars to battle something you may or may not be guilty of, and all for a reason that maybe it could have been cleared up with a simple body camera.
I'm tired of talking about this. I'm tired of him talking about how he saves us money when he's doubled the jail budget. He's doubled the deputy budget. And I'm asking for public records requests. I'm starting this budget season. You want me to go line by line? I'm starting with the sheriff's office, and I'm going to go line by line. I want to see when they're spending. I want to know how many deputies they've added. Every single budget he adds, I want to see. I bet you money he didn't add the deputies that he said he was going to add.
Well, that's the thing. That again, every year the sheriff comes up and begs for money, an increase, saying we need to add more boots on the ground. Every single year he says we need to add boots on the ground. We can't afford anything else. We can't afford body cameras. We need boots on the ground. But rarely does it really result in boots on the ground. A handful of new deputies are hired, and many times more leave the agency than are coming in. So it's really just a dog and pony show when he comes in there and says, hey, again, give me a raise again, give me more money, I need more deputies. It's really not what's happening. And it's just a reason to say, I want everything else. I want the most money in my budget so I can use it for whatever I want, but I'm not going to give back to the people what they demand.
And that's the stuff that it's about politics. That's why he's not doing it. It's about politics. He doesn't want the cameras on there, and that's it. And I was going to ask this board to send a letter to the governor insisting that every sheriff, every law enforcement has a body camera. If you want to have leadership, we get all 5 of us on board to say, make it mandatory. Right? Where's our leverage? We hold the purse. We hold his purse for the budget. What is he going to do about it? Sue us then. And by the way, I'm going to make this announcement right now. If something doesn't change, I'm running for sheriff in 2028.
And that was the biggest moment all day, something that he has hinted at for a while. But now today he made it very public that if the sheriff of this county, of Hernando County, does not change his position on body cameras, he is going to run against him in 2028. And I'm telling you, he's serious about it.
My position is, do you want deputies on the street, additional deputies on the street, or do you want body cameras? If we could do both, great, let's fund it. Let's fund it. I'll sign that right now, right? We sit up here and we say, quit signing unfunded mandates. But we all want to send a letter to say, please sign another unfunded mandate and send it down to Hernando County. The sheriff is elected. The sheriff makes the decisions for his department. The sheriff decides, does he put men and women on the street or does he put body cameras? For someone who's going to sit up on this dais and say they're going to run against him in 4 years. That's the most disingenuous thing I've ever heard on this dais.
You're sitting there insulting me, and it's unacceptable. I didn't insult you. I will, though.
The problem with Jerry Campbell is that pretending like he's not the political one on the stage, he is the most political one on there. What he's doing right there is what's it called? It's called gaslighting the community and Steve Champion. He's basically trying to twist the issue around and make it look like, oh, Steve Champion wants to defund the police. The most conservative commissioner on that dais wants to defund the police. Absolutely the most bunch of crap I've ever heard. And he knows it. But that's how he's going to twist this, is to make it sound like that Steve Champion wants to defund the police and it's a political reason for him.
Excuse me?
You just insulted me up here saying that I'm going to defund the police. And
Who called who an idiot?
You just sat there and basically just defamed me the whole time.
Excuse me. Mr. Chairman, it's my turn. Is it not my turn?
Continue, sir.
You'll be replaced. Don't worry. 2026. Don't worry.
Well, I mean, did that just sound like a crybaby? Jerry Campbell? Is it my turn? I think it's my turn. That's what he sounded like, was a crybaby. Well, listen, it's going to come down to the next election. A lot of people see the writing on the wall here. They've noticed now we have two commissioners on there. Steve Champion, who's becoming more and more vocal year after year to try to protect the citizens' rights, the constitutional rights, lower taxes, less regulations. And we're getting more on less regulations on my next episode because we got a really big show coming on about that that needs to be discussed. But as far as this issue goes, it is just unbelievable that it's rich. You ever heard the term rich? Well, it's very rich that Campbell's up there saying all these things about Steve Champion when it's really it's the other way around. Now, Ryan Amsler is also the one who has brought up the Doge Committee. He's been spearheading that, which we've done an episode already on. So those are the two main truly conservative votes that we have on the county commission right now. So that's it for us on this. We're going to continue to follow this story. We'll see if we get something back from Sheriff Nienhuis after he watches this episode. We've already emailed him. We're going to find out if he wants to respond to our questions. But that's all we have for now. We'll see what happens. We'll see you next time on Get Real with Tom Lemons.